I'm Tass Mellis of The Starters.
This is Ben Golliver with the Open Floor Podcast.
Hi, I'm Kristen Ludlow from NBA Inside Stuff.
I'm OG Anunoby of the Toronto Raptors.
Hey, I'm Elena Deladon, and welcome to the Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch.
Double Clutch Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Double Clutch Podcast. I'm Mike Miller, and joining me once again, Mr. Huw Hopkins.
I'm pretty excited to be seeing LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers take on the mighty Golden State Warriors for a fifth year in a row. Glad to be here, Mike.
Excellent. Good to know you're keeping up to speed with the happenings of the NBA. But you are bang on in that we are here to talk about the NBA Finals. Feels really odd podding at this time for anyone who cares. It's about 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Normally we pod in the evenings, but we need to get you a pod out pre-finals. So here we go. Let's start off with some housekeeping. If you're not already, make sure you're A, subscribed to this podcast, B, following us on all social media platforms at Double Clutch UK, and C, checking out the website doubleclutch.uk, where there's been lots of cool new content going up really, really regularly. We are, of course, here to talk about the Raptors and the Warriors in the 2019 NBA Finals. Tips
the
off
Raptors.
Friday morning. Yeah. Sorry, is that just screwed your notes entirely?
I'm ill prepared for this. I had questions about how LeBron James being in the finals was bad for basketball, and is he the GOAT? I'll wing it. It's fine.
Have you actually missed him?
LeBron?
Yeah.
I mean, the Lakers have still just been carrying on with their craziness, haven't they? So I haven't really noticed that he's not been playing because he's just brought all the drama anyway. So yeah, it's been a pretty good playoffs, I think. What about you?
I've enjoyed it. To be honest, it didn't make much of a difference to me at all whether he was playing or not, and I thought it would. And I don't know what that says about me and my fandom, but I just, he didn't make it. Fine, doesn't bother me. I'm good with what we've seen. There's been some great series. So let's start straight away with the Eastern Conference Finals then. Toronto Raptors over the Milwaukee Bucks, 4-2 to get through to the NBA Finals, where they faced the Golden State Warriors, who of course swept the Portland Trail Blazers 4-0. Were there any takeaways from that Bucks series for you that will impact the Raptors' chances in the finals?
Not really. It's a completely different team, isn't it? The Bucks, in some ways, I don't wish to do Mike D'Antoni a disservice or Mike Budenholzer for that matter. In many ways, they run a similar system for their star, and I think I did feel Giannis in the finals would have been more exciting, perhaps. But then again, I'm pretty happy seeing the Raptors in the finals, being a non-American NBA fan. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how the Toronto Raptors are going to fare. I think there's a lot of positives for them, but also there is the big one negative, which is they're going up against the Golden State Warriors. I think in terms of the previous series, beating the Bucks like they did, I think they showed that realistically the Bucks still have another step to take. I mean, Giannis, he's only, 23, 24? He's still got a very long career ahead of him, and I think he's going to, I'm not concerned about him or Milwaukee's future as an elite Eastern Conference team. And I think they possibly were that this year. Maybe it was a matchups thing. Maybe it was being outcoached. Who knows? But I reckon there's a long career and a long period of success ahead for the Milwaukee Bucks, despite this loss.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, obviously you can't take anything for granted. You just have to look at the Thunder for that. But you're right, Giannis's future is bright. He's a flawed star in that his game is incomplete. But this was really their first real run.
But you know who else didn't have a jump shot early in their career? Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
Did you really just draw that comparison?
I'm just saying. I'm not saying they're similar players. I'm not saying Giannis is going to be a GOAT. But yeah. I think they, he's so young that I am not concerned about his development. Yes, he's got flaws in his game, but he's got a long runway to be able to figure those out.
And yeah, exactly, and that's kind of what I'm trying to get to is that this is a guy who will really show his ability to separate himself as one of the greatest of all time by going and working on his flaws in order to get himself to the next level. Because if he had more of his game was more well-rounded, maybe we're talking about a different outcome here. I agree with your take about the similarities between Houston and the Bucks in that they are so geared around a singular star that the minute that star cannot perhaps perform the way they're used to playing, then the rest of the roster really needs to step up and often struggle to. And I think that's kind of where we've seen Houston fall down in the past few years, and it's where the Bucks have fallen down as well. Some great adjustments. Kawhi Leonard on Giannis. I think we spoke briefly about it last week on episode 300. First time the Bucks lost 3 games straight, let alone 4 games straight this year. It's a huge thing, and of course we're kind of burying the lead a bit, but 24 years into their existence as a franchise, we have a non-American NBA team.
That is actually really cool to hear. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
In the NBA Finals, not only in the NBA Finals, but in the NBA Finals with home court advantage.
Yeah.
Nuts, absolutely nuts. And what do you? The big question everyone's coming up with. The obvious question is: do the Raptors have a chance against these Warriors?
Maybe it's just my non-American fan again. I think they do. Now, I'm not saying the Warriors are better without Durant, but everyone knows, everyone on the team knows that they have a different role. That it is a different system when Durant is out, because if you've got Durant on the floor, you're going to give him the ball, but when he's not on the floor, everybody's got a position in the system, a role in the system. If he was there in this series in the finals, it would probably be a bit more one-on-one with Kawhi guarding him, or Serge, or Pascal, or Danny Green, or whatever. And they're all good long defenders, and they would possibly make this a difficult game for Kevin Durant. I'm not saying they would stop him. Nobody's stopping that guy. But I think the pace would suit the Raptors a bit more, because they're an incredible defensive team, and they can match up with a player like him a bit better. Whereas without Durant, the Warriors, they are this unpredictable team, and nobody's really going to be, sort of knowing who's going to be handling the ball. Is Draymond Green going to be pushing the ball up the floor? Are you going to have shooters coming off back screens? Is it going to be, is it going to be Steph Curry dribbling the ball up the floor and he's getting a pick and roll off Draymond or Looney or whatever? There's so many variables to the team. It's built more on instinct than system. Whereas I think the Raptors are built to defensively destroy systems, which I think we alluded to with the Bucks and other teams like that coming in. It's shown throughout the playoffs. They went down in an amazing game which we watched together against Orlando in that first round, and
What was my reaction to that? By the way? You remember it? Everyone went mad, and I was quite stoic in my response, I believe.
Oh well, they'll win in 4. Yeah, I remember that. But it just seems like they went down, but then they made adjustments and they swept them, and they were even down in the Philly series, I think 2-1 at some point, and they made adjustments, and they needed a heroic shot from Kawhi at the end, but they made adjustments and they fixed it, and they won that series, and then they were down 2-0 against the Bucks and they fixed it. But going against the Warriors, they don't have, especially with Durant out, they don't have a strict system to figure out, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as in the Warriors' offense is a lot more read and react versus designated play or isolation, which you can adjust to. They're trying to think one step ahead, essentially. I agree. I think that's going to be the greatest test for them in terms of the specific matchups. Obviously, you've got the Raptors, who are in the postseason via Chris Vernon at the ringer. They're number one in defense, number 8 in offense, and then the exact flip for the Warriors, who are number 1 in offense, number 8 in defense. How do you think the Raptors are going to stop this? Do they go with Kawhi on Curry to start with? Because to me, that's probably harder than the adjustment they made putting Kawhi onto Giannis, because Curry is so active off the ball. He's also, he needs to be guarded from about 45 foot. And that's going to be a huge additional load for someone like Kawhi to have to chase him over more than half the court and through every single screen that they've got going. I'm just trying to think in my head, how do you stop this Warriors team?
Well, Kawhi's health is going to be an interesting factor, isn't it? Because from all reports, I'm not sure whether he could handle sticking with Curry, because Curry doesn't stop running. The best person to put on Curry, I think, possibly is Danny Green. He's used to running around screens on the offensive and defensive end, so it probably makes sense for that to be the matchup. But then there's going to be a lot of cross matching, because you also have Clay running off screens, and you're going to need to mark up against him. But maybe that's where Kawhi settles or starts, at least. So because at least Clay isn't a ball dominant player. So, if it's just focusing your efforts on chasing around screens, then maybe that's something doable for Kawhi. But if you're not, but if you're not having to worry about him also being the ball handler, that is at least one weight off your mind. That being said, I think the main matchups is going to be sort of between the bigs. Like who is the best? What big in this series has had the best playoffs so far? Because we've got no Embiid, we've got no Jokic, and not even LaMarcus Aldridge if we're stretching. But of the ones remaining, we've got Kevin Looney, we've got Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and Draymond Green. I guess Looney, he's been instrumental since Durant went down with the injury against Houston. Yep. He's averaging 7.5 points and 4.9 rebounds on plus 4.8 in terms of the plus minus, but that's for the whole playoffs. Since Durant went down, his points have gone up to 10.8 per game. And his minutes have gone up to around 25 minutes per game. He had 14 rebounds in the closeout game over Portland. Like that shows that he is engaged and he is reliable, which is more than you can say for the Toronto bigs at various times during this playoffs.
Is there no concern on your part though that the Trailblazers, as great as their season was to get them to the conference finals, they perhaps weren't the best litmus test for how good the Warriors are? As in, the gap between the two sides, essentially the Warriors could have looked better than they are?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the Warriors were lucky to sort of see what's his name? Not Vucevic.
Not Vucevic.
Yusuf Nurkic. Yeah, sorry, Nurkic, if you're listening. But in terms of he was possibly the team's second best player all year, so he was obviously a big loss. And the Warriors, they could still be elite even without some of their best players. So it wasn't a true test, and I definitely think this is going to be the tougher test. But remember, I'm not disparaging what the Raptors have achieved in the regular season, or the Bucks for that matter, but the Eastern Conference is still very top heavy. You know,
Hence why we've got Raptors with a home court advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think you're right on that. I think seeing Portland win as many games as they did, and not just that, getting through two rounds of playoffs against other good teams. You know, they've done pretty well for themselves, and I think I'm not. It's therefore much more difficult to figure out what is going to be the tougher matchup. Is it going to be the team that was good in the East, which is, you know, usually quite weak, or the team that was not as good but in the West, where they have been, you know, very competitive for the past few seasons? It's a difficult balance to draw.
Yeah, no, I agree. You've made a few points that I just wanted to pick up on. Firstly, in terms of cross-matching, I'm slowly coming to the conclusion that individual matchups don't carry as much weight as the media seem to give them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the way the systems work now, you just run everything through pick and rolls until you get to the matchup you want. We saw it last year in the finals, which was basically LeBron comes down, pick and rolls until he gets Steph covering him, goes to the hoop, and vice versa. The other way, they would isolate on KD against Kyrie. I know it wasn't even Kyrie last year. That was the year before, but I can't remember who it was last year. But you get my gist.
Yeah.
In terms of the best performing bigs this postseason, it has to be Draymond for me. But it's whether his relative diminutive stature, I'll call it, can handle someone like Gasol, who admittedly is no longer the franchise star he once was, but has had an impact in the Bucks series. He stayed on the floor. He was a decent supporting cast member, and historically, the way to beat the Warriors has been to go big. Without KD there, that sort of, you know, the 7 foot, though he claims he's not, kind of body who can just free safety everywhere. It's going to be really interesting to me how they play those two off against each other, whether Gasol can keep on the floor because Draymond just gets and goes, and I can't see Gasol keeping up with him.
I think, well, that's why I think Looney is going to be pivotal, because Looney can stay with Gasol in terms of when they go big, but he can also get up and down the court. Draymond, I reckon he may start off the series on Pascal Siakam, but I think he'll probably play a lot against Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi's game is largely built on sort of methodical getting to the rim, and at times in the playoffs he has looked a bit like a one-man band when some of his, you know, because it's also going to be who's going to not disappear for the Raptors. You know, that's going to be a big issue, I think. If they can get all of their players clicking for 4 out of the 7 games, then that's when they can win. But they haven't shown that they can do that in any series, and have had to rely far too much on Kawhi to finish off games. But yeah, I reckon we're going to see Draymond matching up against Kawhi quite a bit. And yeah, if Kawhi ends up getting to the hole against him, but you know, Draymond can make his field goal averages quite difficult from that area, then the rebound's going to come off and Draymond's going to be up the court straight away while Kawhi will be out of position on defense. So I think it's going to be very difficult. I want to say that the Raptors are going to win, and I think there are situations where they can, but that's why I come back to saying I think they probably do have a better chance if Kevin Durant, you know, comes back in some ways, because it will slow the game down, and they will be able to settle into the defensive principles and you know, make them work on the other end. Whereas,
so you're of the opinion that KD back playing for the Warriors actually plays into the Raptors' favour?
Yeah, in this series.
Okay.
Now I'm not saying that the Warriors are better without Durant. I'm not saying that. You know, he is he is a top 1-2 player in the world right now. He's going to improve your team, but the playoffs, we've seen it year after year. They're all about matchups, and I think the matchups might help Toronto if Kevin Durant comes back.
Okay, so let's take a quick break to talk about our friends at NBAstore.eu. So, Huw, where in the world can you find an official NBA jersey for less than £65?
Well, there is a place. It's NBAstore.eu, Europe's official NBA online store, and it has everything you need to rep for your team. And Double Clutch, we've partnered with them to bring you this amazing offer. Our listeners get 15% off orders with the code DCPOD15. That's DCPOD15. Apply that code to checkout and you could get a £72 Swingman jersey, and it's just £61.20.
So that's DC Pod 15. Whatever you need, from current night jerseys to hardwood classics to stamped socks and Spalding balls, NBAstore.eu has you covered like Kawhi Leonard's defense. Offer excludes clearance and outlet items.
So, what are you waiting for? Head to NBAstore.eu now and use the code DCPOD15. How about that for an assist? Okay,
so with the Raptors then, there's and I know this is something you've written about recently, but there are British connections galore. Obviously, there's Nick Nurse, who's a former BBL player and coach, and via Dan Routledge, who's a BBL commentator. He's the only coach in BBL history to win everything. So league, playoffs, Northern Conference, Southern Conference, Cup, Trophy, Coach of the Year, which I think he won twice. Then they've got Masai Ujiri, a GM who was born in Bournemouth, played in the BBL for Derby Storm, Solent Stars, and one game for the Hemel Royals. And Phil Handy, who's an assistant at the Raptors and played for the Manchester Giants. And of course, OG Anunoby, who was born in London, but moved when he was 4, I believe, and could be back for Game 4. He's 10 days away, according to reports yesterday, recovering from an appendectomy. So basically, if you're a casual fan in this series, you should really be, I say a casual fan, a casual British fan in this series, you should really be rooting for the Raptors. That's pretty cool to have that many links. And I know they're kind of like, some of them are a little bit tenuous, but that's still cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're in the UK, we live in a nation that's sort of, basketball it's a very heavily played sport, for young people, but realistically, it's number 7, 8, 9 on the pecking order of sports over here. So
if it's even that high.
So, it is, yeah, exactly. So it is good for us to be able to find little things that we can hook onto and we can get British fans involved with. I'm really pleased that there has been coverage. Obviously, you very kindly pointed out my article, which covers Nick Nurse, but also covers OG Anunoby, but also a few of the other elite players like Temi Fagbenle in the WNBA. And Carly Samuelson, and also some college players as well, and some people on the fringes of G League teams and things like that. It's really cool that I think Britain is getting known, even if it's not entirely pumping out talent at the moment. It is seen as a talent pool or a pathway that it's not go to the UK and your career is over. It's go to the UK or born in the UK and you can still stand a chance. I think that's pretty inspiring to people of Britain, especially if they are young and playing basketball. We can point to these players and say, look, it can happen. It's just we do need. We do need certain things, which there's a lot of politics involved. So I'm not going to go down that route just right now. But, there are ways that you can become, an elite basketball player as well if you are a fan of the game.
Yeah, I agree. We have to take the small victories, and it is cool that people who have worked their way up through either the BBL or, just moving to the States to play and then evolving as players. It's great that there is a degree of success that we can take sort of pride in.
It shows that me and you still have a chance, Mike.
Yeah, that is true. And in terms of one of the things you mentioned, actually, which I thought was really cool, was Chris Harris and his journey. So the first guy from the UK, basically, to get to the NBA, although it might have been the precursor to the NBA at the time. Who went over from Southampton. I think he's actually in a retirement home in Florida at the moment.
Oh, really?
So it's cool that you sort of reached back and mentioned guys like that. Got a couple of questions for you then before we go. Do you think we actually see Durant in these finals?
That's the thing.
Could actually be out.
Yeah, it's apparently. I was listening to Zach Lowe's podcast earlier, and I know he doesn't claim to be an insider, but he does have a lot of knowledge. Is that he hasn't even been doing like, one-on-one or running up and down the court by himself sort of thing. And, when you come back from an injury, there's stages you need to go through. You start off just by doing shooting drills, then you go to one-on-one, then you go to 3-on-3 and 5-on-5, and you build up. And he's not even been on the court all that much. He's still in rehab levels. So they tend to spread the finals out over a period of like 2.5, nearly 3 weeks, but it's going to be difficult seeing him come back, which does go back to what we were saying earlier, that, well, certainly my opinion, that I think that may swing more in Golden State's favor.
Okay, so let's put you on the spot. Does he come back? Do you think we see Durant?
No, I don't think we do.
I think we will, but only in the instance where the Warriors are down. So, if they're struggling, then they'll reach out. But if they're not, they will stay without him.
I think the Warriors stand a good chance of winning either way, right? So realistically, he's going to get a ring either way. He's been with them for 90% of the playoffs, and if he's focusing now on that next contract, making sure that he stays healthy, he does not want to mess that up for himself going into a big contract. Yeah.
Okay, Boogie Cousins. Do we see him returning from his torn quad?
I know less about his status. I haven't read as much on him because all the talk's been about Durant. I reckon we could see him
scrimmaging, apparently.
That's a better sign then.
Mm-hmm.
We could see him again. I think it's going to be maybe when the Warriors get home, and that'll certainly help him. They can just throw him out there for a few minutes off the bench, and because I honestly think you need to keep Looney in the starting lineup. But I reckon we could see Boogie, which would be good for him. I want him to be able to play in a playoff game and not and not fall apart, because he's never done it before. He went out in the first round of the playoffs, and he's never really experienced getting it much further. I'm pulling for him.
Fair enough. Okay, and then in terms of the series, I think it's going to be the Warriors in 6, wrapping things up in Oracle, the last game at the Oracle. Where do you see it going?
I'd love to try and create a bit of controversy on the pod and have a chat with you about this one, but I'm in the same boat. I just can't. I can't see if they. The players on the Toronto Raptors, so much of the bench, so many of the role players have gone missing at different times that I think you're going to need to win. You're going to need to close out the series at home, which they have a chance to, but I don't necessarily see them stealing any games in Golden State, whereas I think the Warriors can definitely steal one in Toronto. So I'm with you. I got Warriors in 6.
Cool. Okay. And so let's just quickly run through the schedule for the listeners. Friday at 2 a.m. So Friday the 31st of May is game 1, and it is actually Friday. So Thursday night, Friday the morning. Then Monday morning at 1 a.m. Is game 2. Thursday the 6th at 2 a.m. game 3. Saturday the 8th at 2 a.m. game 4. Tuesday the 11th at 2 a.m. game 5 if needed. And then game 6 and 7, if needed, will be at 2 a.m. and 1 a.m. on the 14th and 17th of June, respectively. For anyone who hasn't yet entered, go and check out episode 300, where we had an awesome competition.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Can I enter this, Mike?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, go for it. Enter it. where you can win copies of 2K19 Legend Edition, Playgrounds 2, a share of £300 worth of NBA Store.eu vouchers, which you might get a discount code for if you actually, rewind a bit and recall that DC Pod 15 code.
Well, you just reminded them.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Joe's back from the US now, so he'll be back on the pod soon. He has some draft stuff coming up in the weeks leading to the NBA draft, which is late June, I believe.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
You and Josh are obviously covering the W, and you've got another pod dropping soon.
Yeah, should be coming this weekend, so keep your ears out for that.
Awesome. And you've just had your first WNBA article go out for Sky as well, is that right?
Yeah. So there's a couple of them uploading this week on Sky Sports. So if you are in the UK and you just type in NBA.com, that sort of reroutes to the Sky Sports NBA pages now, and WNBA pages. But yeah, going to be doing some stuff for them in conjunction with Double Clutch. Of course, I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome. Looking forward to reading it. And finally, Matt, who's now a Raptors fan, apparently, having gone from Lakers
where did that
to
come
Blazers
from?
to Raptors, has written a finals preview that's out now. So make sure you check that out. As I said at the start of the show, if you are not already, make sure you are A, subscribed, B, following us on all social media at Double Clutch UK, and C, checking out the website, doubleclutch.uk. I think that sort of wraps it for a quick fire preview of the finals. Anything you want to add at all, Huw?
No, you covered it. Thanks for all the plugs, and keep checking out the website. We've got some great stuff coming up, and also our social media seems to be kicking off as well with the addition of some new stuff. Shout out to Oliver Primus.
Yeah, shout out to Oliver for some pretty cool memes. I guess they're not memes, are they? They're GIFs with video tracking and crazy stuff that is way beyond my my comprehension. But cool. We will be back soon, no doubt, with another NBA Finals pod. We'll catch you then.
Peace.